Hey guys, welcome back. Saturday morning in the shop here. Kind of on the same path we've been on the last few videos. We are working on our 110 cubic inch Springer bobber refresh. Was hoping to get this thing done today. Won't get that done, I don't believe, because we did not get our parts in that we ordered. 4th of July just kind of screwed up shipping times. So it'll be next week, but I'm hoping to get the tins on, get the handlebars on. Get some of that stuff buttoned up. Figure out maybe our hand controls. Going to just dig through some of our used parts because we don't need much for hand controls. And Tony got our black painted along with our tins. So we'll get the tins on and possibly some of the foot controls. I don't know if we'll have time for that or not. Just depends on how the handlebar situation goes. So anyway, that's where we're at. We're going to get out in the shop and get to work. Appreciate you guys being here.
So we're back out in the shop here. Not sure what all we'll be able to accomplish today, but first thing we're going to get done here is get the tank back on. Pretty simple process. A couple of mounting bolts. It's just a regular classic peanut tank. Frame was already drilled, obviously. This is the tank we took off, cleaned up. Fresh bodywork, fresh candy purple paint. So we did throw out all the hardware that came off this bike. It was all rusty and crusty, so we're going to replace everything with some stainless steel hardware. And that's what we're doing here, just fitting up some 5/16 bolts, flat washers, and getting everything fitted in place. And there you have it. One tank mounted up, ready to roll. So this is where the day kind of went awry. I was under the impression that this was a DNA or Ultima Springer that's on this bike. It has that look. So I ordered one of these little handlebar adapters. Springer front ends have a much wider spacing than a standard 3.5-inch bolt center for your handlebar risers. But they make a nice little adapter that you bolt to the Springer, and then you can bolt your bar risers on. Problem is, it did not fit on this Springer, so I'm really not sure what the front end is. So we tried flipping it around to run it backwards. That didn't work because we didn't have enough clearance with our tank, and it was going to smack into the tank. I tried cutting the front portion of the adapter off that was protruding so we could clear the springs. That was accomplished, and we're able to get it on there, but there still wasn't enough room to bolt our risers on without them interfering with the springs. So it was kind of a bit of a problem, and at that point we looked at refitting the stock handle risers. Here you can see we're checking the turning radius, and we have like no turning radius before we contact the tank. So that just wasn't going to work for us. So a lot of back and forth with this stuff. You can see here we're installing the old Springer risers, which are really crusty, and I didn't really want to use them. I didn't like the way they looked, but we were kind of looking at options. But of course, they're too wide for the bars we really wanted to run. So then I started digging through all our old junk bars. These would have been wide enough, but they were just absolutely hideous. We looked at some like Superbike type bars, which looked pretty good, but would have needed a taller riser. And they also were not wide enough. The center width was too narrow to get them into the clamps. So it was just really seemed like we were going to have to buy some parts, which was kind of a bummer. I was really wanting to use some stuff we had around the shop, keep this thing kind of budget oriented. And the Springer risers that were going to work were not real cheap. So at that moment, we said, all right, let's move on to something else. So we went ahead and started fitting the rear fender, slid it in place. It's simple. It's got single mount down low, and then two at the seat rail, and then two more hold the sissy bar on. So just a quick dab of red Loctite, throw our nut on. Juan was in the shop today, so he's gonna slip the bolt in on the other side for us. Quick dab of Loctite on that one, and we got our fender bolted on. This stuff is obviously really pretty simple. It's all been pre-fit, so we know everything works. It just worked out that we're fitting it with all new bolts, stainless steel stuff to look nicer. Um, so we're sliding our sissy bar in underneath the flat fender. It's a pretty tight fit based on the existing fender mount they had going, but it did work out well. And we're installing our tag mount we made last week. I guess we made it, or beginning of the week, 4th of July, or right before the 4th of July. So that installs right on top of the fender, Loctite on some bolts, and get that all locked on. So as we were finishing up our taillight and fender installation, it occurred to me that I might be able to use the modified handlebar adapter because it does fit. It just wouldn't give enough room for the risers we wanted. So I decided if we put some spacers underneath the risers, raised them up, made them from a 2-inch riser to a 4-inch riser, the riser spacer would be small enough to clear the springs on the Springer front end, and we'd be able to use the risers we wanted and handlebars, stuff that we already had on hand. So hopped over to the lathe, it's a 1-inch round aluminum, real simple parts to make. We just faced it off, center drilled a 1/2-inch hole because the risers take 1/2-inch bolts, and then we'll part it off to 2-inch length and repeat the process. So we have a pair of those so we can bolt our handlebar risers onto our handlebar adapter and then bolt that onto our Springer front end. So we're going to pull the studs that were installed in the Springer front end out so we can bolt our adapter on. Just look a little cleaner with some nice stainless steel socket head cap screws than nut to do that job. We assembled our handlebar adapter, spacers, and risers. Sandblasted that up, gave it a quick coat of black paint, and now we're getting it bolted onto the front end. So once we got our risers and all installed, went ahead and slapped our bars on. Set of 9-inch little baby 8 and nice set of billet aluminum risers. Worked out pretty well. Sometimes you just have to move on to a new project and let the ideas come to you. We kind of had thought we were whooped for having any bars on here, started getting frustrated. So we moved on, got the fender installed, the tail light, tag bracket, all that stuff. And while we were doing so, an idea came to us and worked out well. We got our bars on, didn't have to spend any more money, a couple of minutes on the lathe and I guess $1 or $2 worth of aluminum for our spacers. Overall worked out nicely. In a perfect world, I wouldn't have that tall riser on there with this style of bar, but at the end of the day, I think it looks nice. I don't think anyone will probably notice that it's not just a regular old setup that we had to do something unique on to get it to work. Next up, we're just going to go ahead and install the clutch lever. Just a regular old stock Harley clutch lever. Nothing special here, obviously. It's going to be really the only hand control. We'll have a throttle on the other side. This bike doesn't run front brakes. Uh, that drives me nuts kind of a little bit. I hate having mismatched handlebars. If you've been around the channel for any length of time, I'm sure you remember me saying this. That's why I do hydraulic clutch conversions on stuff so much. But it is what it is, again, trying to keep things budget oriented. And here's just some stills of what we got accomplished today. Bars, clutch lever, nice candy purple tank. Really think it's coming together. It's going to look awesome out in the sun. Just another little quick angle of that. And then we got our back fender. Still got to throw our wheel back in fully, but overall, good day, and hopefully we'll have this thing wrapped up during our next work day.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for today. We didn't quite get this thing finished, but we're really, really close. We got the tins on, handlebars figured out. We're still waiting on a couple of parts, our ignition module and a couple of wiring things, and put our foot controls back on, throttle, grips. But we're real close. I'm pretty sure next chance we get to work on it, we'll have it wrapped up. So anyway, appreciate you guys being here as always. Please don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends if you like what we're doing. And we hope to see you next time at Gatti's Garage.